Welcome back to Inspiredsiren. Today we are going to do kind of part two of the duo-logy series Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. So I'm going to try my best to make this review have not all the spoilers, but also I will be giving spoilers. So if you haven't read these books, you definitely should. So go read these books. I feel like you could read them in a week or two. If you're, pretty average. I read them in, I think, 3 days. So, but I am a ferocious and fast reader. So yeah, so there will be some spoilers and stuff, but I'm going to try my best to streamline this review and also to kind of drop into some of my favorite parts of it. So we kind of reconvene back after Heartless Hunter. Also, if you haven't watched Heartless Hunter, my Heartless Hunter video, that will be linked in the bio, and you should watch that first because otherwise this might not make a lot of sense to you. So we drop in back on Rune. She has escaped the island where they are like basically witch hunters, and we drop in with her seemingly getting married to some random prince named Soren. We don't really know much about him. And Gideon has now become a spy again, doesn't trust her, and of course is trying to kill her. So the setup here, I'm not, it doesn't talk a lot about what all happened other than Cressida seems to have be a really powerful witch. She's come back to power, and she's kind of manipulating things, trying to get things going so that she can take an army back to defeat like Gideon and all of the soldiers on the island where Rune grew up, and kind of restore the witches back to power. So it's pretty immediate. Like, I felt kind of confused at first, but then like almost immediately, like you have this heartbreaking scene, and this is a really big spoiler, so I'm not going to say it directly, but if you know that she hears a song from one of her old friends that is gone now, and so she runs out of the ballroom, right? Like Gideon is still there, like trying to assassinate her or whatever, but she runs away, and she runs into the bathroom, and she just bursts into tears. And Gideon obviously is chasing her because he's trying to kill her, and he like walks into the bathroom, and I'm just imagining this super fancy like palace bathroom, and Gideon sees her crying, and he hesitates, right? Like he like thinks, oh, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening. And he sees Alex's ring on her finger, and it's like this moment where you kind of, I mean, like, I'm not going to lie. There were a few times in this book that I was like, wait a minute. Did they not end up together in the end? Like, are Rune and Gideon not going to be okay? But this moment in the very beginning of the book where Gideon has found Rune, he's like sent to assassinate her or whatever, but he sees her and he can't. It's like he can't do it. And I think the moment and the beauty of all of their scenes together, like throughout the book, are what I think, and like maybe this is getting a little too deep, but in my mind it feels like they're just fighting so much internalized trauma and internalized like prejudice, right? Like Rune has been raised, with these witch hunters being evil and awful, and Gideon has been raised with witches being evil and awful to him. And part of what really triggers Rune back into knowing that she can't leave Gideon is, as they're in the bathroom, they get found, and Cressida has Gideon again. And this whole kind of path comes to light through Cressida's words to Rune, through Cressida's words to Gideon, where Cressida's now her goal is that she knows somewhere on the island that her sister, like her extra, like unknown sister, like abandoned, was gonna maybe die but didn't. Cressida, the Witch King, knows that her sisters were killed, but there is an additional sister somewhere who has been somehow cloaked in a spell, so she can't find her right now. But she wants to bring back her dead sisters to life. She wants all three of the Roseblood sisters to have power again, to take over the island, to rule, and basically to smush all the witch hunters. So, the book has this background of these two groups, right? It's the witch hunters and the witches. And they all hate each other, and there's no acceptance. And, right, like the bridge between Gideon and Rune just fights on this background. And so what I love about this is that this feels like high stakes and not high stakes at the same time, because you see the connection between Gideon and Rune. And so it's like part of you trusts that, but then they also go back and forth not trusting each other. And it's like, it's like this amazing, I don't know, it's back and forth. And I think that probably a lot of people are annoyed by this like enemies to lovers thing, but this one just felt really unique to me because it was, I mean, yes, they need to communicate and also probably need therapy. Like, true of most fantasy books, but like we're escaping into some random reality and story. And so like we could put that aside for a second, but I don't know what it was about the way that they interacted, but it felt like maybe like a more mature version of enemies to lovers, of like enemies to lovers, yes, but the reasons and the depth behind why they're enemies is so nuanced and complicated that it actually doesn't sit on this like basic level, which tends to annoy me about like just miscommunication tropes. Like it sits on this depth level that I honestly think that like throughout Rune and Gideon's time together in stories and through these books, that they are legitimately trying to figure out how to move past prejudice, how to move past being trained to hate each other, being trained to try and kill each other. And there is something about that I think, I don't know, it just seems like a really unique perspective, I guess, on enemies to lovers that I haven't really experienced before. So that's kind of the setting that's going on. While they're all in this like kerfuffle here in the very beginning of the novel, we learn a couple things. We learn that Cressida has taken hold of a witch that can see the future and like has knowledge. And the way that she gets this witch to talk is that she has a daughter who she like threatens, right? Like, so Aurelia is the witch who can see the future, and her daughter, who's named Meadow, is like just a little like 2-year-old and is constantly threatened. And so Aurelia is giving up locations of witches, is giving plans for opposing the witch hunters, and kind of being used by Cressida. And the way that I feel like this was like a turning moment for Gideon, where when he sees that this is what's happening, and when Rune sees that this is what's happening, I think they both realize, I'm actually not okay with this. We like need to figure something out. But again, they don't trust each other yet. But they trust each other enough that they run away. They basically work together to like get out of the, I guess, trap or like catch of Cressida, and really want to like actually work together. And they kind of go back and forth. on like how they're gonna do this, but like there's a lot of back and forth. Almost all of this whole book is like there's lots of back and forth. They're like they escape together, they pretend to be married, they like have a lot of misunderstanding where Cressida has cursed Gideon that his true love, if he touches her, which happens to be Rune, of course, like he causes pain. So he like flinches at Rune a couple times, and Rune is like, oh, okay, he's disgusted by me, which is obviously like, this is not what's going on, but they aren't talking about it. And they're both trying to get past the prejudice and trying to trust each other. And so there's like so much going back and forth. And at some point, you know, I think Rune really decides, I don't think that I can keep doing this. Like, I think I just want to run away. And of course, because Rune is so compassionate and loving, she wants to take the seer, Aurelia, and her little kiddo to escape. And she decides to trust what Gideon says, that Cressida is looking for this extra sister. And she asks Aurelia for help. She says, can you, like, I can get you out, I can help you escape, but can you help me figure out who this extra sister is so I can also help her escape, so Cressida doesn't harm her? And they end up basically like working together to try and get all of the spells they need, and all of the like they have to have the spell books themselves, and they also have to have like very specific types of things. So they have like a piece of Cressida's hair which can help her. So all that to say, hold on, I have to look at my notes for a second. We'll be right back. Okay. I think that I'm remembering what's happening now. So anyway, Aurelia, Rune, and the little kiddo Meadow, they do escape. At the end of that escape, kind of Rune has decided that, okay, like, I'm okay with running. I want to keep running. Gideon is not chasing me. I've thwarted him. Like, I want to figure out a way out of this. And they kind of sail to the edge, and she wants to go back to get some spell books, right? So she needs spell books to kind of figure out how to find the additional sister. She doesn't actually make it that far into the water away from Aurelia and Meadow when Aurelia kind of leaves. Like, she basically leaves Rune on the beach, and then Rune is like, what the heck, man? Like, we were supposed to work together and escape together. And unfortunately, the thing that she kind of shouts back to Rune is like, well, the thing is that I actually just want to escape with my child. Like, which, I mean, fair. Like, she's been tortured by Cressida, she's been taken advantage of by Cressida, and she just says, like, I just want to escape with my child. And also, she throws Rune a message that was in Gideon's coat. So, like, somewhere along the way, Gideon had slipped a message into Rune's coat, even though they're still in this weird back and forth thing where they're like, do I love you? Do I not love you? Do I trust you? Do I not trust you? And in the note, it says, like, it basically explains to Rune that Gideon actually helped her escape and let her get away without acknowledging it, and he's probably going to be put to death for it. And so Rune, of course, wants to go back, and Aurelia knew that she would want to go back, and she just couldn't do that to her kids. So Aurelia and Meadow take off at this point. They have left Rune. She says, okay, you know what? Like, I can do this. I can get back, but I need supplies. I need a spell book. And she goes up to kind of the palace where Cressida was holding her, where this like prince marriage, you know, whatever thing was going to happen. And she's kind of looking for books. She's looking for spell books. And she finds a spell that seems to match up with the problem that Gideon has, where he's been branded by Cressida. And she kind of just like remembers it in her head, and she's like, okay, like Gideon loves me because he helped me escape, obviously, and he was going to put his own death at risk for it. And so like the least I could do is try and break this spell for him. And she kind of memorizes the marks. She's understanding them. And then she needs to move on because she needs to find other spells to help her get back. And that is when Cressida comes in. So at this point in the book, like Gideon in our minds is like held captive on the island with the witch hunters. And Cressida has Rune in captivity on the continent where they're about to sail to attack the witch hunters. So we're still in the witches versus witch hunters phase. Cressida is basically so pissed off at Rune that she pretty much beats her within very close to death, and only stops when Seraphina, who is one of the older witches that Rune's grandmother asked her to go find from the first book, Seraphina says, hey, like you can't kill her because that's your sister. And of course, the sister is the person that Cressida needs to, the long lost sister or whatever, is the person that Cressida needs to resurrect her actual sisters. And so like we have this turn here, but Rune is so like far gone at this point that she doesn't have a lot of strength, but she does, she does what she needs to. She writes these spells that she just learned about breaking Gideon's curse. She writes some marks, and it doesn't tell you, but it says that she writes more marks than the spells. So we don't really know what the marks are doing. We don't find out till way later in the book. But, so Rune is actually spared because Cressida, turns out, needs her to, like, enact her evil plan. And the way that Rune eventually gets away is after she's been healed. Seraphina and her decide, you know what, like, no matter what, like, you're the sister, like, and you need to get away. And so Seraphina is almost like sacrificing herself, like creating distractions so that Rune can slip away. And Rune, she escapes. She goes to her old home to get some more spell books. And that is where she runs into Gideon, who is still in captivity of the witch hunters. They're all back on the island now. Rune was carried unconsciously on a ship. They're all back in the island, and she runs into Rune, or Gideon runs into Rune, and he's got like another person with him, and they all decide, you know what, like, okay, I'm going to escape. So they run and they run into this country house where all these other little side characters come in. I'm not going to mention them all because there's too many, and the stories are so beautiful. It is just worth a read or a reread if you haven't read this before. But they all kind of converge, and then they face this moment. They face this moment where all of them are now having to make a decision. There's witches there, there's witch hunters there, there's civilians there. It's a variety of people. And Gideon proposes, hey, what if there's a third way? Not the witches ruling and not the witch hunters ruling, but that we live as equals, that we govern like our world equally and together. And Gideon is so, like, he believes this, but Rune is so shaken that she just feels like she can't. She kind of, like, runs away in this moment, and then there's this beautiful scene here where, Rune goes and runs away, and then Gideon finds her in a hot spring, and Gideon sees all the lashes from Cressida on Rune's back, and they connect, and Rune just says like, please, I want to run. Like, I want to run. Like, please run with me. I want to be with you, and I want to be together. But Gideon knows he can't. And also that Rune doesn't really want that, but she's just scared. And so he lets Rune run. Rune tries to run away, but again, Gideon comes to just make sure gets on a train okay, but then there is a skerfuffle, as there always is, and unfortunately, things don't work out. But as Rune is looking at the window as her train is escaping, she sees her, like, this vision of like her future, of her children, and like she recognizes that like there's kids there that could be Gideon and hers, and she looks and then she sees Gideon like getting in this skerfuffle, right? And so she gets off the train, and they decide together, no, we are scared. And Rune has this like awakening moment where she's like, no, I am scared, but I want to get out of this. I want to fight for a place where there's equality and like beauty and kindness, and she just loves her home. So they kind of get back into the country home with all the riffraff and all the random people from all over walks of life, and they all make this plan together. And then they get some intel that they can find where Cressida's sisters' bodies are, which is like part of the necessary skill to resurrect them. They have to like have the bodies, obviously. And so they go there, and then it's like a heartbreaking moment where Rune and Gideon are standing there next to the dead sisters, and kind of Cressida descends. Somehow she's found them. It was a trap. She's surrounded by guards, soldiers, witches. They're descending on Rune and Gideon. And Rune, in that moment, like, this scene takes place where they are like on a rocky island, and it's surrounded by like this raging river, this raging whirlpool. So the bridge is the only way in and out. And of course, Cressida's at the bridge. So they know that they're not going to escape. And Gideon, you can see, is scratching for hope and is desperate. But Rune recognizes that there actually is no hope. And the only way at this point to stop Cressida is if she dies, because she is the long lost sister. She knows that now. And if she's dead, Cressida basically is just going to be her alone, and she can't rule. So she hands a weapon to Gideon and requests that Gideon kill her, and he does. And he this is like the biggest spoiler of it. So like, I hope you have not been listening if you haven't read this book, but I am not even getting into some of the beautiful details and connections and the way that these people are intertwined and their stories are intertwined. There was like halfway through the book where I read a name and I recognized it, and then I realized it was a story from like a different witch earlier in the book that just like somehow came about and tied beautifully. And anyway, so we're left, and then there's this moment where people see Rune's sacrifice and they turn on Cressida, right? Like some of the people that love Rune and Gideon are there, and they work to kind of corral everyone, like, hey, let's turn against her. Like, she doesn't have as much power now. Like, we can fix this. And Cressida, of course, is like pissed AF, and she's like trying to come at Gideon now and kill Gideon, because that's like basically the only thing left for her to do, is like let this rage come out. But, and this is where it comes full circle, we realize that Rune, when she released Gideon from his curse, the extra marks were like a protection spell and a reversal spell, so that Cressida can no longer touch him. So Cressida's trying to throw like spells at him. She's asking people to shoot him. She's throwing knives at him, and everything just bounces off of him. She has no power over him, which is like this amazing, beautiful gift that Rune gave to Gideon. And this is the freaking coolest thing that happens in the book. But it was amazing because you realize then, okay, Cressida's death can resurrect Rune in the same way that Rune's death would have been able to resurrect Cressida's sisters. And so some of the people like come and run, and Seraphina is one of them, and like recognizes like, okay, we have to save her. And you know, they follow through the spell, they sacrifice Cressida, and Rune lives. And at this moment too, like there's like a recognition that Seraphina is actually one of the older witches, the creator witches, and she kind of leaves her human form. So, oh my gosh, I have been rambling for 26 minutes, but listen, this book, so good. I actually would love to read it again because I feel like there was so much complicated and these beautiful relationships and these things that I don't think I even caught, that I would love to read it again. So that will conclude my rambling about the duology Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch. Highly recommend. The house I've constructed, this like speed build, is a little bit based on kind of what I imagine Rune's house, like Winstera house, would be. But also I don't know, I was just speed building, kind of like having this book and this feeling in mind, and this is the result. So I don't know, if you want it, great. I'll take you on a little tour here. Okay, jumping in here for a little look at the final build. I hope you enjoyed kind of talking through about both Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch. Some of the best books I've ever read. I love that author. I love those books. So the outside basically remains the same, but let's do a little tour of the inside. Okay, so kind of coming in through the entrance here, you kind of walk into kind of where the staircase is, some of the main stuff, like just some cabinets and stuff. To the right, we have kind of the kitchen setup. I've left a lot of this blank. I feel like you guys can add kind of your own spin on these areas, but just kind of got the basics, you know, a sink, stove, you know, a little table, some books. I'm imagining recipe books, like some crates. I've got kind of this tea shelf here. And then in this other corner, we have kind of what I might consider like a little pantry with the fridges and everything. And then just a little small bathroom. And then when you move to the left, when you come in, we've got kind of the main living area. I love how this turned out. And it's, you know, I love to imagine that this is Rune in the gardens. And I don't know, something about that feels really cool. Kind of, we got that main area, a little bar. We've got the main dining area. And that's kind of the downstairs. And then upstairs, again, like I left a lot of this blank just because I honestly didn't want to do it. And also I just thought like this could be like a couple extra bedrooms. It could be a bathroom. It could be a lot of stuff, kind of depending on what you want to use it for. Through the middle place. I don't know where this random sim came from. Hello? Okay, anyway. So the kind of got like, we've got a hallway here. We've got a little sitting area for reading. And then over in this area is kind of what I would consider the main suite. So you kind of walk in here through the hallway. We've got a little sitting area. And listen, I know these are from vampires, but they match the vibe, okay? Got like a little, like a nook with some statues and plants. We've got a little sitting room with a fireplace that kind of leads into this beautiful bath area, and then kind of the toilet is back here. And then on the other side here, you know, through these curtains, I kind of set it up so this is like the little bedroom area, and kind of behind the bookshelves, I wish you could make them even, but you can't. So you kind of the secret door into the casting room. So thanks for watching. I have uploaded this beautiful build onto the gallery as Rune's house. You can find my gallery under Inspiredsiren. I hope to see you next week. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Give me a comment, give me a like. I would so appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week. We upload every Friday. Bye.